Good morning, everyone. It's TB Shores. It's May the 16th, 2015. Bear with me, I've got a bit of a cold. And I want to thank a subscriber that sent me a video about how to do a better quality video on my phone. Anyway, I watched it, took a few tips from it, and we're going to see how it works out, okay? Excuse me. On the last video, I spoke about Fresh Kills Landfill and how that was all part of Satan proclaiming the sacrifice that he had just performed with the incident with 9/11 at the World Trade Center complex. I want to revisit that just briefly. The Lord just wanted me to make sure these lines is where I crossed it out, that I've covered it, but we're going to back up a little bit. That I had explained this to where you can understand it, because I rewatched the video and I'm like, I'm going to explain this again. Okay? Here where we see the word sacrifice. The Lord's trying to get us to understand that by them dumping the debris that was there that still contained human remains, it was Satan's way of proclaiming his sacrifice. And what the Lord has shown me is, if we look up the word sacrifice, we see that it means killing with intention of pleasing a deity. And pleasing is all about something being acceptable and approved. So now we go up here. Now keep in mind, that's about sacrifice. A sacrifice has to be acceptable and approved by the deity. And we see that the definition of fresh is exactly that: acceptable and approved. Okay, that covers the word fresh, and kill means to put to death. So here we have acceptable and approved, which is the meaning for a pleasing sacrifice. The Lord wants us to clearly understand this was about a sacrifice that Satan was making in a symbolic way, or in a mimicking of the sacrifice that Christ was, because he was sacrificing his, as I've shown you, that the World Trade Center complex is the seat of Satan. And he was sacrificing his creation there. And it all goes to the fact that he, with the new World Trade Center complex and with the One World Trade Center building, he's done away with the duality or the equality he was trying to proclaim with the world towers. And now he is trying to exalt himself above God. He wants to be God. And this is all going to take us back to CERN. I got some things I want to show you about CERN and how it connects to the World Trade Center. First, let's see. Let me look at my outline notes here. Okay. First, I want to go to, let me see. This one, I think. No, excuse me. I forgot to pull one up. Bear with me. Bear with me. This one, I believe it is. We want to revisit this, okay? We're just going to let that house phone ring. Let me see. Let me see if the American Red Cross is calling again. No. So we're going to let that phone ring for just a minute. And what I'm trying to find is taking us back to here, the destruction. the new building, the cleanup. We want to go back to, here it is, Fresh Kills Landfill. And what I wanted to show you, let me see if I can find it again. I'm sorry, I meant to have this pulled up. I thought I had it pulled up, but I've had a few things going on this morning. Okay, here's one thing I want to show you. Right here, where it talks about Fresh Kills Park Project, and it says, the Fresh Kills site is to be transformed. You see this word here, transformed, into reclaimed wetlands. And that reclaimed, we learned, means to create something from what is there, like a new creation. And then it goes on to say recreational facilities and landscaped public parkland. So what the plan is to take this place where they turned it into a land, as I showed you, of desolation and destruction and death, and turn it into a park. And I read some information somewhere about all these things that would be there. It's like a little mini paradise for people to go to, like a mini vacation. They can do kayaking and horseback riding and all kind of things. So here is a picture of Satan taking a land that's been marked with destruction and the blood of others, just like as we saw in the potter's field. He's taking it and turning it into a new creation. This word, transform. He's mimicking God again, okay? And then I want to show you this right here. I mentioned it in the other video, and it's about how it says only 300 people were identified from the remains that they got from the aftermath of 9/11. 300 people. That's very important because I want to show you something. We learn in, bear with me just a minute. We learn in this right here. Here's your website. I hope you can see that. And this is all about the artwork, the Oculus that's in the underground subway. Again, I want to point out about underground. When we were studying how Manhattan is the seat of Satan, we saw the 4 strongholds around it, and we looked at the Bronx. If you've watched my videos, you'll understand what I had looked up there, and it goes back to taking us to understanding the underground and how it is all about darkness and concealing. Let me see if I can find that right quick, because it's about darkness and concealing things. I don't see it right offhand. Secret things of the underground, okay? So right here is what I want you to see. Oculus, this is the tile eyes on the wall of the subway. Oculus contains 300 different mosaic eyes, all based upon actual human eyes taken from photographs, not computer generated. So there is a connection with these 300 eyes that we see that are displayed throughout the subway. I'm trying to see if I can get back to that. Here's a picture. 300 eyes are displayed randomly throughout the walls of the subway. They are generated from, not generated. They are made of mosaic tile of actual photographs of human eyes to depict the human eyes. The mosaic tiles are actually all about the reflection of light. Anyway, my point in bringing this up again, and as you can see, this is the centerpiece, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. It is something we'll discuss because it holds importance, and I think it redirects us back to Scripture. But the thing is, there is no coincidence that these 300 eyes randomly placed throughout that subway system under the World Trade Center complex is the same number of eyes. The same number of people, 300, that's remains were identified. The way Satan works, you can be assured that there is a reason for that. It's all about the sacrifice. I haven't been able to come up with a reason for the choice of 300. But I don't have time to dig into everything. I did find some scriptures that were talking about 300 people that were slew, but I didn't have time to get into it and fully grasp it enough to try and put it on here and tie it in. So if I can't tie it in, I'm not going to put it on. But anyway, once we see that there's a connection with the 300 eyes that are randomly placed, and we see 300 people were identified from the remains, we can see there again the hand of Satan at work. Now, another thing I want to point out while we're on the topic of the eyes is if we look right here, we looked at this early on. It says the cult of OC is derived from ancient symbols of the circular sun and the crescent moon, which were joined together, form the word OC. Okay? The occult means to eclipse. Keep all this in mind. The O and the C. The O represents the sun. The C represents the crescent moon. And to occult means to eclipse, as when the moon obscures the sun during a total eclipse. So that means darkening of the light. Okay? So what I want to show you now is all about that. We come over here. I printed this off so I can better explain to you what we're looking at. Now, as you can see, CERN symbol has clearly got 3 6s in it. There's no mistaking that. If you color this section here, and I did, just so to highlight the shape of the eye. You see how this shape would fit the shape of an eye, as in the oculus? Now, I did another one too. And this one is all about the circular of the sun, as we saw in the video, on the screen of the computer here a minute ago at the website. This is the circle of the sun, and you have the crescent moon. Of course, you could reverse it either way. This could be the circle, and this could be the crescent. But the point I'm trying to make is that in the CERN symbol, we see 666, we see the oculus, and we see the occult symbol of the circle representing the sun and the crescent representing the crescent moon. And this all ties us back, or ties in with the connection between the World Trade Center and CERN. And it's not just about a connection between the World Trade Center and CERN. It is about how Satan he's weaved into everything, okay? These are just certain aspects of it that I'm pointing out because it's very important at the time that we live in right now. But I'm sure you can see. The other thing I want to point out about this is you can see how it represents eclipse. Because if this were the moon moving over the sun, you could see how this circle would represent the moon moving in front of the sun and starting to block it out. So here this also resembles an eclipse. Of course, it could go either way. This could be the circle for the eclipse. And I think that's why it shows it as a double, if you could look at it as having double crescent moons. The reason it's laid out there and you can see it twice, excuse me, is because one way you look at it, and it represents the circle of the sun and the crescent moon. The other way you look at it, it would represent an eclipse of covering up the sun. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because this would be like the moon. Cover this all yellow, and then the moon would be covering up the sun. So here they have worked in the occult symbol of the eclipse. They've worked in the occult symbol of the circular moon, and the crescent moon is where they get their OC for their occult. Oc is the word. It also is occult and oculus. It all ties in together. And then we also see oculus. So here we've got the occult, we've got oculus, we've got the occult OC, and we've got their eclipse, all in this one symbol, along with 666. I'm going to cut this off here, and I'll be back later. Bye-bye.